Well, I think, North Korea has been a game changer for a long time, and I think that's partially because we as Americans really need to have a good global strategy for our foreign policy. We pick enemies and we pick friends, and then we pick to ignore people. And when we're ignoring people, like we've, broke relations with North Korea, for example, they're able to maneuver and gain technologies that we're not able to influence or help control. This particular missile is definitely a concern. Everything they're doing is a concern. But I think we're adding to that concern by the rhetoric that's coming out of the White House, and a lot of the dialogue that's been going on now between North Korea and the U.S. are the North Koreans asking, is this guy really going to come after us? Is this guy really going to start a war with us? Because we need to know. And so there's a lot of back channel discussion that's going on around that. I would keep in mind that most of the ballistic missiles have not reached the ground. Most of them have landed in the sea, and none of them have a warhead. So a warhead's going to change that dynamic. But I think we need to look at engagement. We need to look at diplomacy. We need to look at understanding how to talk to and influence people. And you can't do it by calling them names or saying just threatening outright destruction of everyone in your country.
So Donald Trump has been getting a lot of criticism, for, as Patricia said, the name calling and the crazy tweets and Rocket Man and Elton John and all this stuff going on. But I mean, the key question is, what does the United States do? What's the diplomatic angle on this? I mean, is there diplomacy? I know many of Donald Trump's critics are saying that he doesn't seem to care about diplomacy. I know, like the other night, John Kerry, who was Barack Obama's Secretary of State, during his second term, says that there's a false narrative going around that diplomacy has failed. And John Kerry vehemently said that's not true. And that's a falsehood. His argument is that there hasn't been enough diplomacy, hasn't been enough trying with diplomacy. And he, of course, was referring to whom? One Donald J. Trump. Well, yeah. And he also talked about how the United States has to push Beijing more, to
right. And I think that
has the situation.
I would say we've tried diplomacy since at least the Clinton administration. Clinton gave them nuclear reactors and a bunch of money to operate with peaceful fuel, create heat, so forth, not for weapons, right? But we've tried economic inducements. We've tried working through the Chinese. We've tried working through the South Koreans. I think the point Trump made, and I'm not sure that how this ends or whatnot, is we need to by not confronting them, we've allowed them to create these weapons.